Hi, friends. Dawn here at the Soul Goals Podcast. I am so glad to have you joining yet for another episode. This one is number 48 of 52 self help growth exercises for this wonderful year that my good friend Dixie and I have embarked upon. We're closing in on the end. I can see it on the horizon. 52 full weeks. Almost there, guys. Almost there. If you have been participating, yay, let's go. I'm going to give you a big hand for that. If you've not and you've just been following along, I'm loving having you here and would love your feedback and your input. As always, enjoy those messages that are sent. We love reading all about them and your experiences. So keep them coming. Would love to have you subscribe, would love to have you download and share it with a friend if you feel comfortable doing so. So to recap this year, basically, if you're new to the podcast, my friend Dixie and I have been undertaking different self-help work each week, different exercises each week. Some have been easy, some have been very challenging. Both her and I can attest to that. And we can also attest to the fact that if it's challenging, it's probably beneficial. It's probably something that needs to happen. It's something that we have been holding back on or hesitating doing for some reason or another. And our goal here in this year is to bring these exercises to you so you know what they are, so you can see firsthand our experience. It's a little bit vulnerable. We're talking about some personal stuff this past year as well and how we feel about it and how it affected us. So going that way, yeah, it's been a difficult one too. But all in all, our bottom line is to grow in our souls evolution, grow in the person that we are, because we're here to evolve. We're here to grow. We're here to dive into our work. At least I hope you are. And if you're not, I would love for you to consider jumping in and doing that work because you deserve it. You deserve to be the best version of yourself you can be. And before you can make anybody else happy in your life, which ultimately you can't, but before you can show up for anybody else in your life, you got to show up for yourself. So this is week number 48. We're calling this one goalpost. Goalpost, yes, not like a football goalpost, but we are in football season. The idea for this week was to pick one attainable goal that you can incorporate into your week that you've been interested in doing, but maybe shied away from for some reason or another. And I'm going to tell you, I picked a doozy for me, something pretty easy that's a concept that we all do every day is sleep. So for me, right, my goal for the week was around my sleep pattern, specifically for me getting in bed at a certain time and shooting for a specific number of hours. And I went to my good old friend Chat GPT for a wonderful sleep hygiene routine that I could try to stick with. And it was really, really great. Yeah, it gave me all of the rundown of the different things that would be helpful for me to set the wind down time, to stay off of my screen anywhere between 30 and 2 hours, 30 minutes and 2 hours before bedtime, create an environment that's comfortable to sleep in, all the things. Let me tell you what, it was really hard to do. And the idea for this for me was that I knew it was going to be hard. So I was going to have to pick something that I could do, as much as possible. And then I was going to have to give myself grace for the days that I couldn't accomplish it. This from a self-professed perfectionist, or try to be perfectionist, because I'm going to let you know, none of us are perfect. Nothing in the world is necessarily perfect. So it's how we deal with that imperfection around us and within us. So for me, sleep, not a perfect thing. But I will say, I think if I had to guess, I'm going to say about 60 to 65% of the week, I accomplished it. And you know what? I'm going to pat myself on the back. I'll take that as a win because that's at least 1% better. That's ultimately what we're trying to do. Just get a little bit better each day, a little bit better with each experience and how we handle it. Maybe 1% better than the last time we went through something like that. So let's go to this. Sticking to a plan or a goal or a habit can be hard because our brains and our bodies are wired a certain way. For me, sleep has always been something that I don't want to miss out on all the things that this life has to offer. I don't want to miss out on relationships, on get togethers. I don't want to miss out on seeing my kids early in the morning before they go to school. I don't want to miss out on getting that next piece of work accomplished. I don't want to miss out on getting my work handled before the next day. And yeah, I am also a self professed night owl. So I do enjoy the evening time better. But unfortunately, my alarm clock is still set for 5 a.m. So when I don't get in bed at a decent time, it affects the next day big time. But it's wired my brain and my body to believe that that's how I need to function. And it's really hard to change those behaviors when they're so ingrained. So we have to back up and figure out what's our choice. How do we rewire? How do we retrain our bodies and our minds to accomplish this goal, even at 1%? So our brains favor the familiar. I want you to remember that. Our brains tend to favor our familiar. Every habit, the bad ones, the good ones, you were comfortable with them because they've become automatic for us. So when we try to change them, yeah, our brain interprets that as effort, right? It internalizes that as maybe uncertainty. And sometimes it can create a threatening environment. Our brain can literally go into this threat mode that why are we changing what's familiar? What's the reason? And it can send us into even a fight or flight mode as well. Also, know that motivation isn't stable. So, we often start with this great idea. Hey, I'm going to do this. I wrote down my sleep hygiene from ChatGPT. I made my whole plan out. I was motivated. I was ready to do it. But motivation naturally for all of us ebbs and flows. It just does. It's never 100% at 100% of the time that we're here. We always have those ups and downs, those ebbs and flows. And when it dips, our positive habits and that motivation stuff, it collapses. And if it's not backed up by a structure or a set routine, yeah, it can go out the window altogether. Also, know that our willpower to follow through is limited. We do have a limited well on that because relying on your willpower is basically like running on a phone battery. You know, how soon do your phone batteries run out of juice? Sometimes the day you use it a lot, sometimes you don't use it much, but it drains fast when you're using it. It drains quickly when you're jumping in and utilizing it. Like I said, if life is stressful or you're juggling too many things at one time, your willpower battery is going to be tanked. It's going to be really hard for you to step into that motivation and to really dive into that willpower because willpower ebbs and flows just like the motivation does. Also, I'm going to tell you that habits can often clash with immediate rewards. What does that mean? Well, like my habit of I'm going to try to get in bed earlier. I'm going to try to get X amount of hours of sleep. It usually has a long-term payoff. So I know that after doing this for a week, I'm probably going to see results in my mental capacity, my emotional well-being, even my physical, my skin, my body just feeling more invigorated and more plugged in. But the instant reward is usually what we're looking for. And if we don't get it right away, then our brains tend to go, it's not worth it. And then we check out. But our brains are wired to grab that short term hit. But the consistency is really what we need. That's what's going to rewire the brain to know that ultimately this is the habit I'm trying to create. This is the goal I'm trying to get to. It's the long term versus the short term. I know you've all heard that before. Another thing we do is underestimate the role of our environment. This is a biggie for me because if our surroundings are set up to support our old patterns, like my phone staying near my bed or my not winding down for me specifically around my sleep that I've decided was my goal for the week, just not taking the time to wind down intentionally before bed for an hour before it's going to be hard and there's going to be friction in course of sticking to that new plan. The plan is way higher than the experience we're currently in and the habit that we're trying to break or the goal that we're trying to get to. Change feels a lot of times like an all or nothing concept too. So a lot of times we tend to try to overhaul way too much at one time. So you got to keep it simplistic and attainable. That was the goal for the week. What's simplistic and attainable? For me, I felt like sleep was consistently attainable for me. For me also, I didn't succeed 100% of the time. So I know that there's more work to do. And again, what are we here to do? We're here to do that work, right? We're here to understand and uncover different pieces of ourselves that are meaningful and that help us understand more about who we are, what it is we bring to the table, and what our life is and how we tick, how we're made up. So if we try to do too much at one time, if I were to say, I need to get in bed by 9 o'clock every night, I need to be sleeping 8 hours plus every evening, I need to be getting up gently every morning, I need to be winding down and set my app on my phone, I need to plug my phone in out here. I like the criteria, like a 10 or 11 bullet point page or bullet points rather that I need to stick to. I think it's going to be a little more difficult to stick to it because then we're putting ourselves in a place of pressure to succeed. And when we can't check all of those 10 or 11 points off, then we feel like a failure. And well, now what am I going to do? It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go back to day one, how I was. I'm going to go back to the familiar instead of rewiring and trying to stay consistent and saying, I got 1% better by sticking to the first two bullets on the point, first 2 points of my list. That's what I'm talking about. I was consistent in the first two. I got 1% better. I'm going to dive into that. And I'm not going to create this overhauling list of things that I have to accomplish. Maybe there are things that I need to adhere to. But in terms of creating a goal or an attainable situation, putting too much pressure on ourselves becomes overwhelming. So, what is it that you can do today to make that goal attainable? What is one thing that you can check off that you can dive into? Maybe two things, maybe three things, but check that you're not giving yourself an unattainable measure and know that all progress takes time. Wiring takes consistency. Didn't we just talk about that? Our willpower and our motivation can be limited when we find these tumbling blocks that we run into with different goals that we are trying to incorporate. So consistency and letting yourself off the hook, knowing that you have the ability to attain this goal, but it may have to come in small chunks at a time for where you are and what you're capable of achieving. And in that way, you let yourself off the hook. So knowing that it makes it easier to give up if you do too much, why can't we just say initially, hey, these are 2 points I'm going to stick to that I know I can accomplish. So halfway through the week, when I was not being successful in my goal of sleeping, I backed off. I looked at my chat GPT list and I was like, that seems to be a lot. How about if I just shoot to get in the bed by 10 o'clock every night? Let's just go with that one. And you know what? That's where the percentage of success rose for me because I felt like I had done too much in that attainable goal initially and set my standards a little bit too high. So then, how about this next week? Now that I feel better, I've received some long term benefit by knowing that I got into bed at a certain time. I may not have gotten all the hours that I needed under my belt, but I did something that I was shooting for. I did something that I was aiming my goal for. And now what can I incorporate in week number 2? It's packing on top and it's stacking different habits to create consistency. So here's the thing, guys. The good news is sticking to a plan, it gets easier, but you got to design it for what your brain is ready for. And those tiny, consistent pieces, the stacking on of the habits, all of the different things create that accountability, that self compassion, all of it, it creates momentum. So then we can step forward and find the space of, I have the ability to change. I have the ability to create a space. I have the ability to manage my goals efficiently and effectively and really find success, even if it's just 1%. 1%, guys, 1%. Let's find a goal for this week if you haven't already done this, and let's see what we can do. Make a list, cross half of them off, and then go, I can do this piece of this goal this week. This is attainable for me. And 1% better is really all I'm shooting for because I know in the end, I can find the things that stack on top of it. I can be successful if I set myself up for that success and I understand what's underneath it for me as a human being. All right, guys, there you go. My soapbox for the day. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And I want you to know that we all have a story and that everyone's story matters. I would love to see you go out and make your story count.